which, mild spoiler alert, was not complete garbage.
Exactly. Yes. And of course that show was One Piece.
So the first thing to know about this is this was from the same production company. Might have even been similar crew, though I don't have confirmation on that, as that aborted live action Cowboy Bebop.
Yes. And I had the misfortune of watching that, and it was a disaster to say the least. But it seems like they've learned their lesson.
Which is shocking because, like, Netflix live action anime adaptation, that has been the butt of online jokes for nearly a decade now,
Yeah.
or at least 5 plus years. Because, like, what's the meme template? Manga, anime, Netflix version, with the Netflix version being some hypothetical awful thing,
Right. Yeah.
like a picture of a bad cosplay or.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And but yeah, so this is a refreshing change of pace. And of course, we only watched the first episode.
Right, just enough to get a sample.
Yeah. And now I tried to watch the anime. I couldn't get into it. Um,
My
had,
experience is that I read the manga for a while back when they had physical editions of Shonen Jump in the US.
mm,
And then I fell off when I realized that I'd hit a point where I wasn't reading more than half the magazine anymore.
uh, yeah.
Now in theory, I have access to the entire series on the Shonen Jump app for mobile. But
Mm.
now, 20 years later, it's hit a point of 1,000 plus chapters.
Yeah, and yeah, that is a daunting undertaking. Just like trying to watch the anime is a daunting undertaking because that's like what's 800 episodes.
I think it might have even hit 1,000 episodes of the anime because there's a lot of filler in that thing.
Oh yeah, yeah,
In fact,
uh,
let's do a quick online search and find out
yeah.
how many One Piece episodes.
Uh,
1,084. I think
oh,
there's actually more episodes than there are volumes of the manga
manga.
or
Oh,
chapters of the manga.
sheesh. I thought Fairy Tail was bad.
Yeah, no. Um, so, spoiler alert: you are not getting the ending of One Piece in this show.
No.
That was actually a funny thing. Is that what seems to have happened with this show is that people who don't usually watch anime are stumbling across this and really enjoying it.
Yeah, I know Chris Gore over at Film Threat really likes this show a lot. He's already done one watch through, and he's going to do a second one. Um, yeah, it's pretty amazing to see.
to 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 bring up one of our to bring up our one and so far only company profiles. Um, I saw a clip on YouTube where one of the whole live VTubers, Maury Calliope, who has actually collaborated with One Piece to release a song for one of their episodes,
Oh wow,
for one of their works. Uh, yeah, it goes to show part of why Whole Live is a $1 billion unicorn company.
indeed, yeah, wow,
She was talking about how one of her fellow streamers, Kiara, had never shown any interest in One Piece, but had been watching the show. And furthermore, because the YouTube algorithm is a relentless machine, it then showed me a clip where Kiara, was expressing shock that the show didn't have an ending, or that like the series hadn't ended yet
yeah,
after she hit the end of the first season.
yeah.
That is like the most normie reaction I can think of to running into One Piece.
Yes,
So, but we've been talking around One Piece, the
yes,
Netflix show. Let's actually talk about the show itself.
yes. Yeah, so the show picks up where we meet Luffy.
Um, whatever floats your boat, I
Okay,
guess.
I'll call him Luffy. Monkey Luffy, and he's on a boat out in the middle of the water. There was a slight prologue at the beginning with where
The
the
death
pirate.
of Gold Roger, the one who put his treasure in the Grand Line.
Right. Yes. And then after his hey Ninja and Luffy. Okay,
Luffy,
Luffy. Okay, Luffy. All right.
like Goofy, which matches the character.
Right. Yes. And so, but his death sparks the rise in piracy, and everybody goes off to become pirates so they can find his treasure and find the One Piece.
The fools, don't they know that the One Piece is the friends you made along the way? It's
Yeah.
not. It's actually the mangaka has said on the record that that is not what the One Piece is, because I think that was everyone's guess.
Uh, uh, but yeah, so then Luffy is one of those pirates, and he wants to find the One Piece, and he wants to get a ship and a crew. And he sneaks aboard one ship, and then runs into Kobe, who's kind of like
Well, he doesn't intentionally sneak aboard the ship. He kind of has to seal himself in a
that's
barrel so
right,
he doesn't drown.
right, yeah, because his little dinghy of a ship sinks.
Yep.
And so then he gets aboard and he meets Kobe, who's basically just a whipping boy for the ship's captain, who's a real awful woman.
Now, one kind of spoilery detail I do know about from what I read of it is that later on, actually, let's. I will bring that up when we hit the end of this scene.
Okay, yeah. So Luffy he tries to get off the ship with Kobe's help, but then he accidentally wakes everybody up, and Luffy basically gets Kobe to kind of stand up for himself against the cat. What was her name? Alveda. Veda.
I forget her name. I'll take that as what it is.
Okay. But then it's during this scene that we learn about Luffy's secret, which is that he can stretch.
He's like a more interesting version of Kamala Khan.
Yes. And we find out that the reason he can stretch is because when he was a kid, he ate this fruit.
The devil fruit.
Devil fruit, yes. And that's what turned his body into rubber.
Yep. And he uses that to casually defeat the crew who have no weapons that are actually designed to hurt somebody who's made of rubber.
Right.
And he and his new friend, who is not actually a major character in the series.
Yeah.
So I always forget his name.
Kobe,
that's it. Go off in search of adventure.
Yes. And then later on, we meet a couple of new characters. One is Nami, and she's a thief. And she manages to steal herself a ship, pretending to be a victim of a pirate attack, and
using a fake treasure to lure people in.
Right. Yeah.
So she's the sneaky one.
Yes. And then oh god, what's the guy's name?
Zoro.
Zoro.
Roronoa
Zoro.
Or Zolo, however, depending on. Yeah. I forget how they pronounce it in this one. There's been dubs that treat it differently.
I think it was Zoro. I remember Zoro because of Zoro.
He was a swordsman.
Right. Yeah, and Zoro is a pirate hunter.
So naturally, of course, Luffy wants him on his crew because, that makes sense, right? If you're making a chicken team, you're gonna get your own fox, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. And so they end up on they end up at this island, and they need to get into this base because the commander of the base has a map to the Grand Line. and that's what Luffy wants, and that's what Nami wants, and so they both break into the base. Of course, Nami pretends to be she steals a uniform of a marine. The Marines who are like the pirate, they fight the pirates and
Part of the world government.
right, and she steals his uniform. Of course, she finds the shortest guy she can because she can fit into his uniform. And Ninja says Nami, aka Oda's waifu. Who's Oda's?
Yeah, it's he's the mangaka.
Okay.
Uh, Funny thing. So Daniel, if you continue on with this adventure, don't expect any romance because there felt like there were initially hints of a romance between Luffy and Nami, but
Yeah.
at some point he realized he didn't actually know how to write a good romance, so he backed off, and everybody is just very, very good friends.
Okay.
So don't bother with that ship.
Okay. Yeah.
There's already a ship that the pirates are. That's all the shipping you need for this series.
Exactly. So so they managed to get into the commander's office, and of course they can't get into the safe, or they can't crack the safe, so they have to rip the safe out of the floor, and then it flies out of the. Oh, he's also married. Oh, really? well.
That reminds me of a bit from or a comment from the Family Guy soundtrack, not soundtrack, the commentary, where one of the writers or directors was talking about how attracted he was to Lois, and like, so what would be required for you to actually have relations with Lois? It would be like a very like complicated interaction between an animator and the voice actress, and
Yeah. Oh man.
yeah, so they managed to beat up the local guy who was his name Axe Hand or something like that, or
Axe hand. Yeah, axe hand. Yeah, because he has an axe hand, and
literally an axe hand.
and his bratty son.
Yes,
Yeah.
and despite the Nami and Zoro repeatedly declaring that they are not his crew, they end up going off together. Sans Kobe, who wants to actually be a Marine.
Yes. Yeah, and so that's where episode 1 ends, and of course, that's all we know because we haven't watched any other episodes. But yeah, it's. I mean, I'll think I'll. I mean, I have a Netflix subscription, so I think I'll go and watch the rest of them.
I could see my group I watched it with wanting to continue on.
Yeah.
As somebody who has seen more of the manga and anime, I think they actually managed to improve a few things from the original version.
Hmm.
So, just for example, Kobe was actually not originally part of that one pirate's crew.
Ah.
He was actually like a henpecked person on a ship that pirate then raided, and
Ah.
Luffy was in I believe Luffy was in the provisions that she stole
Oh. Okay.
in his barrel.
Okay.
So that cuts a lot of stuff out of the plot, right? Because like
Right. Yeah.
it's much more parsimonious.
Yes.
And the thing I was going to mention before, later on, so they hired a heavy looking actress for the role of the pirate queen.
Yeah.
Or that pirate woman. She was much more grotesquely obese in the original. And then she ended up, but she was like so full of herself. And then she ended up eating a devil fruit that made her skinny, and she was actually hot, but she thought that her good looks have been ruined.
Okay.
So I wonder if the series continues long enough to hit
Uh,
that, are they going to are they going to recast? Was the actress wearing a fat suit in preparation of that? Or is somebody going to have to go on keto for a few months?
I don't know.
I haven't bothered to look up what the actress normally looks like.
Well, let me do a real quick check here if I can. But yeah, although given how things are these days, they may just not even do it completely.
Yeah, with jokes about Netflix casting aside.
Yeah. Let's
Uh,
see. Oh no, that's not what I want.
Uh,
Uh,
while Daniel looks that up, speaking of, I would say the casting in this was very solid.
mhm.
There was some hesitation initially because like, oh, they race bent Luffy,
Yeah.
when realistically, like, it's one of those, like, it's a crazy fantasy world where everybody is mixed up. Like it's
Mm.
it's very Caribbean influenced. So it's like, the Caribbean is like a weird mix of white and African, of
Yeah.
various
Yeah.
stripes and native
Yeah.
elements, and so it's not inappropriate um, to have race bending if the person fits the role otherwise.
Right. Yeah.
I will say that some people might want to have the subtitles on for Luffy's voice actor because he does have a bit of an accent.
Mm.
I could parse it out, but I know people who wouldn't be able to.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree with that too. And the actress the character's name was, I was right, it was Alvida.
Hmm.
And no, she is rather large. So
Okay, so either
the
recast for that joke or
she's got to
months of
go on a, yeah.
months of keto and months of chicken and broccoli.
Right. Yes, and a lot of Pilates. Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I like the casting too. And I think that yeah, it's
The other improvement is that in the original manga, you just came across Zoro in the position where he's tied up in the stock and pillory before Luffy
uh
saves him, because he had been like promised, like, that he wouldn't be punished if he could spend a month without food and water out there.
uh
Where in this one, you got to see like him actually do a battle scene and be a
yeah.
bad, and you actually saw the incident that got him arrested, which was pulled from something that happened. Like, that little girl was originally like sorry that she had gotten him in trouble for an off-screen incident, and that's when she was feeding him the rice balls with chocolate.
Okay.
So like rejiggering things actually improved quite a bit, in my opinion, because like you got to actually see some things that you just heard about. So
Right. Yeah.
uh, and you can see why this production had the blessing of the mangaka. So,
Yes. Yeah. And I think that he actually worked with the show, didn't he, or did some?
yeah, I
Yeah.
remember him being very enthusiastic about Luffy's actor.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm just glad they learned their lesson from Cowboy Bebop. I just wish
Yeah.
they had done what they. I wish they had done for this show what they, or what they're doing with this show. They did it for Cowboy Bebop.
Call Me Chato actually had a good video where he broke down why, in his opinion, they could pull this off better than Cowboy Bebop, even without the lessons learned.
Yeah.
That was an interesting watch. Oh, the one criticism I will give, it's also a praise, which is going to sound strange.
Yeah.
Uh, the show is very true to the visual style of the manga.
Hmm.
This means that you have like a lot of little you have a lot of little One Piece is more niche than Cowboy Bebop's is Holy Ninja.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's outsold Batman at this point. The only thing left is Superman.
Yeah.
It's Superman. That's because they have like nearly a century's worth of comics.
I think I think what he might mean is that it has a very loyal, devoted, more of a loyal, devoted fan base than
Uh,
yeah,
oh, yeah. To adult audiences, it's going to be kind of strange because
yeah,
like there's like a male bird. And the male bird has a hat like it did in the original manga. The way they
yeah,
communicate is there are these snails that act like wireless phones that they can use to call between other snails but they have a handset shell on them.
yeah, yeah,
Um, the axe hand, whatever the marine's name is,
yeah.
he in the manga, it was clear that he had like a prosthetic replacement lower jaw from his years of stuff. And the new one, it looks like it's CGI enhanced, but it so kind of just looks like it's an applique that he puts on over his face for vanity purposes.
Right. Yeah.
So like there's some visual elements that kind of work and then some that don't quite.
Right. Yeah.
So, but your mileage may vary because it's at the very least it's way truer to the original visuals than a lot of other series we've seen adapted.
Yes, that's very true. Yes.
All right.
Right.